Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be looking at just a few of the games that were released on this sausage that need to be released for this sausage, as ports or entire remakes. I've always had a massive affinity for the GameCube, and I very recently managed to get this one just up to where I want it, so keep an eye out for that in the future. It's not slightly overdue at all. And as wonderful as it is to go back and play some of the greats and some of the forgotten ones as well, I can't help but feel that they deserve a second chance at life. You know, they deserve a bigger audience, another stab at the gold. They deserve to be re-released on the Nintendo Switch, as I alluded to mere seconds ago. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Let's kick things off with a game that I was never able to appreciate when I was a child, and that's not because, I was too young to understand it or anything like that. It literally just did not come out in Europe. Custom Robo. This is a series that's been massive in Japan for, the longest time now, but never really got quite the same foothold over here in the West, but anyone who's played it will tell you that it's a blooming lovely game. I can't say I personally care for the storyline and the dialogue that much. I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't really do anything for me. But the battles and the customization of the robots, I should say robos really. Other games have tried to sort of do something very similar with this, and, a lot of games have succeeded, but then there's things like Demon X Machina, which everyone has forgotten about, and it's not a bad game, it's just tremendously forgettable. But the GameCube one, it still holds up today, and I think it absolutely deserves another crack on Switch, if only for the fact that it is currently ludicrously expensive. Who remembers playing this one? Probably not most of you. Yes, from a North American exclusive to a European exclusive. And of course, both were released in Japan. Yes, it's Doshin the Giant. This is a bizarre game. Like, even for like a weird Nintendo game, this game's weird. It gives you very little direction, and the goals are pretty obtuse. I mean, they're not. There is an end game, but even then, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can just muck around and play as Yashin, the evil bugger. That's good fun. It's been described as Populous meets Mario, and whilst I don't think that's an entirely 100% accurate description of it, because there's also other stuff going on, and it's just weird. It is, at the end of the day, a god game, and it was doing things like terraforming long before Animal Crossing or even Minecraft and stuff like that. And whilst it's absolutely not got the same level of flexibility, it's still, this is a game that was originally on the 64DD, so this is really quite ahead of its time. But the 64DD flopped like nothing else I've ever seen except maybe the Virtual Boy. So we're talking about the GameCube one. Also, that's relevant to the to the video. It's just super weird, and not enough people have played it, and I think it deserves a second punt. I really do. And realistically, maybe even a sequel would be better in this instance, because whilst the original is still fun, it is definitely, let's just say, a product of its time, and if you go in expecting a modern experience, you're going to be very sorely disappointed. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. It's one of the best GameCube games by far, and frankly, I'm just baffled it's not on the Switch, because the game still looks great, even on original hardware. I think realistically, all you'd need to do to improve it would be a higher resolution, maybe upscale some of the original textures, maybe add a massive bloom filter on it that's going to be divisive. Yeah, obviously there is Wind Waker HD on the Wii U, but that just makes it even more infuriating. They've already got an HD version that's been, had all the heavy lifting done for them, I think anyway, at the end of the day. I'm not Nintendo, I don't fully know how this stuff works. But it's just there, sitting on the Wii U, and it deserves to come to the Switch. Every other Wii U game has come to the Switch, why not this one? Just release it, Nintendo. This is one of the best Zelda games ever. Maybe. It's a contentious issue. I know it's not a case of just copying and pasting a Wii U game into like a Switch format and just being done with it. There is work that needs to be done, but at the same time, so much of it has already been done. Come on, Nintendo. This entry also kind of covers Twilight Princess HD as well, but I like Wind Waker more. It's never going to have the same impact that it had when it first came out, but Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, come on, it's still an amazing game. It plays really heavily on the idea of sanity, hence the name, and it plays with your perception actually as a player as well, and it does some fun things, some strange things going on. I don't want to get into too many specifics, and whilst most of those maybe wouldn't translate very well into modern systems, they could so easily be changed, and they could so easily play with them even further, like, you know, taking you to the home menu, but it's not the home menu. I've maybe said too much already. It could even make you think your Joy-Con's drifting when it's not. Only they'd never do that. This game was way ahead of its time, and I've always been baffled that Nintendo have never done more with it. I mean, there was a sequel in the works and it never happened, and then there was Shadow of the Eternals and that never happened either. It just needs a little bit of updating and stick it out on Switch. Really? Come on. GameCube nostalgia is at its highest. Do it now. Chibi Robo, the weird little game about playing as a tiny robot running around a house. For some reason.
Ribbit.
A game that passed an awful lot of people by, and a series that has been dealt a really bad hand over the year. Yes, there have been sequels to Chibi Robo, but my god, they're not very good, are they? I think a certain Mr. Wozniak has more than covered this. I've always been fascinated by the idea of like a giant normal world, you know, you playing as a character running around in a normal house, but everything's big. It's always fascinated me ever since Micro Machines back on like I think it was the Mega Drive at my friend's house or something. And Chibi Robo absolutely scratches that itch. I can understand why Nintendo wouldn't go to the effort of porting this to the Switch, because realistically, I mean, it was their fault, but Chibi Robo games have not done very well. Poor sales and just low brand awareness means that it's always been kind of in the shadows. But in my mind, it's all the more reason to give it a new lease of life. And this game, it's still great. It would still work brilliantly on Switch, which is why it's on this list. That seems redundant to say. Do it, Nintendo. I need to be a tiny robot again. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Yeah, it's been mentioned before that a remake of The Thousand-Year Door would do awfully well, and realistically, I don't think that's outlandish in the slightest. It is a wonderful game. Realistically, it's the best Paper Mario game, isn't it? I mean, come on. It built upon everything that the first game set out, and every game subsequently, whilst they've been good, they've always tried to change the mold and do something really different, and it hasn't always worked. Realistically, this is never going to happen because of that sign that Nintendo's put in their window. But it's fine, because this list is fanciful and full of mad ideas. I mean, come on, Nintendo's not going to re-release Doshin the Giant, for God's sake. But they should, and they should re-release The Thousand-Year Door, or fully remake it, even better. I just think it's such a wasted opportunity to have this game and, you know, re-release it. And realistically, I think even if it was just a straight port or like a widescreen, you know, like kind of like the 3D All-Stars stuff, something like that, just, you know, a really simple port but with like some nice bells and whistles, I think Nintendo could probably charge maybe not full price, but a good £30–40 for this. It's free money, and especially with all the hype of the Origami King. Okay, yeah, it's not going to look as good, but come on, you're not going to release it with the expectation that it's going to look as good. You should still do it, Nintendo. Speed! Nintendo, a whole generation of people want to know where this man comes from, because they don't know. And whilst FZero GX is not the first game to feature Mr. Captain Falcon himself, it is the one on the GameCube, and that's what we're focusing on today. Also, butter my onions, it's the fastest one out there, and there are games that have tried to achieve the same kind of thing, you know. There have been some fantastic examples, like Fast RMX is the one that immediately springs to mind, and there are other games out there like the Wipeout series, but none of them are quite F-Zero, are they? And I am terrible at it. I don't know what it is. Every time I pick it up, I'm always thinking, now this is going to be the time that I'm going to get good at it, and it just never happens. But you know what? I don't care, because I enjoy every second that I play of it. It is just so fast and responsive and just so snappy, and it runs so well, and you get to play as Captain Falcon and Samurai Gordo and Mumbly Joe. You just need need to play as them all. Nintendo has basically retired the F-Zero series, it seems, at least for the moment, and that is a really, really sad thing. Even all the more reason to release a game like this. You know, a port is lower effort than a brand new game, and hey, you get more awareness of F-Zero, and then you can finally make a new one. How about that? That'd be good. Coming up in today's episode of... Oh, this one is the most painful of all. It's 3 games. All right, I know. Technically it's a Wii game, but like 66% is GameCube originally. So I'm counting it. Everyone's been saying ever since the Switch came out, you know, Nintendo, why don't you release Metroid Prime Trilogy? And Nintendo's gone, we have nothing to announce at this time. It's the most obvious thing in the world. You've got a franchise like Metroid, which historically has sold decently, but never like mega well. You've got a platform like the Switch, which is frankly amazing. It's hugely popular. There's a bigger audience than there's ever been before. Maybe, why not take this semi-dormant franchise that you've got an upcoming game for in the form of Metroid Prime 4, re-release all the 3 original games in one tasty package, and it's all in, you know, HD, and it just looks great. Oh, for goodness sake, why hasn't this been done? I don't know if it's just blind optimism, but I'm expecting that we will eventually get this. But the fact that it's not already on my Switch is just the most painful thing that I'm currently experiencing. It realistically wouldn't even need that much of an update. Yes, some of the textures are a little bit fuzzy, but I don't think anyone really cares. I mean, come on. If you just, you know, kind of take it for what it is, the game is still gorgeous. This ran on a GameCube at 60 frames a second. It still just absolutely blows my mind how well this game runs and how gorgeous it looks. Just put it on Switch before I come to Kyoto and have a bloomin' good word with you. And there you have it. Just a small selection of the games that we just absolutely need on the Switch from the GameCube. How many hundreds of games did we miss? Let us know what games from the GameCube that you'd like to see appear on the Switch in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you stick a mismatched, at least color-wise, dongle in the back of that subscribe button and call it a modern system. And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.